There is a show that I've been meaning to talk about on Netflix that I absolutely love, and it is perfect for if you're locked down. This is a show that, under some circumstances, I would have trouble getting through, but when you allow it your full attention, I found it to be very, very rewarding. It's called Archive 81. It's produced, executive produced anyway, by James Wan, who's like the
Saw.
yeah, I mean, quintessential horror director at this point. He's revolutionized the genre at least twice without you can't even argue that he did Saw and then he did The Conjuring. Like he did Saw and then all horror movies look like Saw. So then he did The Conjuring and then all horror movies look like The Conjuring. He's just the man. And then also like he did one of the Fast and the Furious movies. He's just the man. He's the man all around. Basically, the premise, it's like an 8-episode series. Each episode is an hour long. Again, it's like there's a lot of stuff happening, and it's one of those shows that is full of loose ends that you're waiting to get tied up, and so you can't afford to not pay attention to things. On some in real simple shows, you could tell at the beginning of a scene, this scene doesn't matter. Like I don't have to pay attention. I can, as long as I get the broad strokes, I'll be fine. In this one, it's one of those where you're not going to know until the end. So you kind of have to pay attention to everything because otherwise it'll be like episode 4 and there'll be a reveal from episode 2 and you'll be like, oh shit, that's when I was on my phone. Like that means nothing to me. That should be a big whoa moment. What it is it's this guy. It takes place in 2022. Current day, 2022. And it's this guy, lives in New York City, and his job is that he's an archivist. He's a very good archivist. He basically digitizes film and tape. So already, I'm interested because I love, VHS. There's just something about magnetic tape. There's something creepy about the way, digital, you're never going to find, an alien accidentally sucked into a digital video. But, I don't know. There's something about magnetic tape, sucking in data that you're like, what is on this tape? Maybe I just romanticize VHS too much and I'm a weirdo, but there's
an old head.
Yeah, I'm an old head. Yeah, but that's creepier, right? It's way creepier to look at a painting from the 1800s than it is to look at a Bored Ape NFT. There's no way when you look at a Bored Ape NFT, you're not sitting there going oh man, there's so much in here, the textures and the richness. You're not thinking about the context of the fact that this is from so long ago. But I don't know. When you're looking at that old stuff, well, I digress. So this is what this guy does. He digitizes and he fixes it too. If it's a damaged VHS tape or a damaged audio cassette tape, he knows how to fix it, put it into a new cassette. He's got all the decks that are plugged into the computers and he digitizes things for people. And he gets this offer from this mysterious rich billionaire guy who's the head of a company. And he doesn't know him. But for some reason, the rich dude knows this archivist. And he goes I have a job for you. And you are the guy for it. I'm not just looking for any archivist. I'm looking for you. And I know that you're the guy to do this. It's going to be very, very stressful. It's going to be very, very different. But it's going to pay $100,000. And he's like, when you're living in the city, digitizing tapes, $100,000 is $100,000, So he's like, yeah, say less. And so he goes, okay, but in order to do this job, I've got these tapes. And they're from 1994. And I found them in a fire. There was a fire in a building. And I was able to recover these tapes, but they're all melted and shitty. And you can't do anything with them unless a man of your talent can fix them. He's like, yeah, hell yeah, I can fix them. He goes, okay.
I'm a man of my talent.
Right. He is a man of his talent. So he goes to this mysterious house, and there's there's this shelf full of camcorder tapes, Super 8 camcorder tapes. And what he's going through are the tapes of this documentarian. Well, she wanted to be a documentarian. Let's be honest. She didn't exactly have a film crew with her. She was using a handheld camcorder. But she was going around and videoing and talking to people in this building that she had moved into, because she wanted to find her birth mother. She was adopted. She wanted to find her birth mother. And he starts archiving these tapes, and what happens is the show splits. And we get this double narrative where we're following around this character and we kind of get the backstory and a little bit of his life in the beginning. So we kind of are connected to him. And then we see what he's going through in this isolated house out there in the forests of Westchester. At the same time, we're following the story that he's watching on the tapes that he's digitizing. Now, God bless, somehow, when the guy got the tapes out of the fire, he was able to put them in chronological order. So the guy put the tapes in the order that told us a great narrative. I mean, God bless, because it did make the show much, much better. But what we end up with is we watch her story as we're seeing his story, as he is also learning her story. And it starts to get real creepy. There starts to get, everything is in this show. You start to get elements of the occult. You start to get elements of like demons. You start to get elements of like aliens and time travel, and it just turns into this like, what the fuck is going on here? There's this weird landscaper Willie. There's this weird like landscaper, this lady that's wandering around on the premise, and she just like pops up in weird spots, and there's this one area in the forest where he can call his friend who does a mystery podcast, and he's like, oh my God, I just saw this weird thing on this tape. You got to look this up. And then the friend looks it up, and there's something else like, oh, that's fucking odd. And so it adds to the story that way. And it just goes and goes and goes and goes. And every episode, it just picks up and up and up and up. Like, I will say this, episode 7, no spoilers still. Episode 7, probably not necessary. They do a little time travel in that is like, like the show itself, not the characters. Like the show jumps into another timeline, which, I think you probably could have done it without that episode. But it does lend to context to the whole series. But you really do fall into it. And the reason that I'm not giving any spoilers right now is because I do feel like it's one of those shows that's going to have a slow build on Netflix. It's not like a Squid Games where it's like, okay, Squid Games is out this week. We're talking about it next week. Everybody's seeing it. It's spoilers. I feel like this one's going to have a real slow build. But, I think if you're into that stuff, if you're into anything like that, horror stuff, sci-fi stuff, time travel stuff, and
cult. I'm into the cult stuff.
Occult stuff. And not cult, occult. I mean, kind of cult, but not like Jim Jones.
What's the
cult.
difference?
A cult is more demonology, Satanism, witchcraft, that kind of thing.
Like Rosemary's Baby?
Yeah, that's the occult. A cult, I mean, it's usually based around Jesus. Like a cult would be like Jim Jones in Jonestown, or like David Koresh and the Branch Davidians and stuff like that. That's a cult that actually sees the person leading them sometimes as the second coming of Jesus. The occult thinks that they've tapped into the other side of things, the satanic demon side of things, and that's even more powerful than whatever this power of good is over the fucking cucks that are going to church. That's usually where the occult.
Those losers in their regular occults.
Yeah. I think when the occult talks about cults, it's like Republicans talking about Democrats or vice versa. Like they're like,
you believe these assholes?
What a bunch of idiots, huh? What are the Democrats over here? What a bunch of they see like cults as like lamestream, and like the occult, they're red pilled. They figured it out. They're good to go. And it's beautiful. It has an ending where it does wrap things up, but you're rocking and rolling with what's happening next. I gotta know. I gotta know what happens after season 1. Kind of like the way Squid Games did. Like after Squid Games, you were like, okay, that was an ending, but realistically, the story is going to continue. Let me get that season 2 right quick. Same type of thing going on here. And look, am I going to sit here and tell you that you're going to give me a show that has one narrative that's happening current day and another narrative that's happening in 1994? And I'm going to sit here and tell you I'm not into a show like that? Oh, because I'm into a show like that. Because let me tell you something. I love My So-Called Life, and that show takes place in 1994, and it was current day. So if you can tell me we can have both, I can have my cake and eat it too. I can get a show that is technically relevant and takes place in 2022, but I can be over here celebrating 1994 like a madman. I'm going to take you up on that offer. And I took him up on that offer with Archive 81, and I was real glad I did. I was real glad I did.
Okay.
It's great. The actor's good in it. It's like there's a lot on the actor's shoulder. The archivist himself, there's a lot on his shoulders because, you know, any show that takes place, even if it's only part of it, in an isolated house cabin somewhere in the woods, it's an actor in a house now, right? Like, it's like, you got to do all this. And he does a great job. Of course, you know, we keep going. These are all the things that are at play here. We got the goofy best friend who's a podcaster trying to figure out his deal. We got the archivist trying to figure out his deal. Don't forget, we got the 1994 lady trying to figure out everything that's going on in her world, which is fucking wild. And then you got the billionaire. Don't forget about the billionaire. Because Hot Dog, I haven't told you, you're probably sitting there going like, hey, by the way, why was this billionaire so insistent on hiring this guy to archive all that tape? And why did he have to do it in a house in Westchester where the nearest 7-Eleven is 14 miles away? Well, I would tell you that, but then I'd fear that you wouldn't watch the show.
Gotta tune in.
Exactly. So if you are, maybe you want to bunker down if you're on the East Coast here for the Nor'easter this weekend. Maybe you got the vid. Maybe you're on a flight. Maybe whatever reason you have, maybe you just live alone. You live that beautiful, wonderful, lonely lifestyle. But if you can lock yourself in, I don't want to hear it from anybody that like, oh yeah, I was watching a couple shows at once, or like, yeah, I watched 20 minutes here, 20 minutes there, or like, yeah, no, I was like, I was playing PUBG on my phone while I was watching this show. Like, I don't want to hear it. You can't watch this that way. If you're not prepared to make the investment, don't make the investment. But if
Hunker down.
That's it. You have to. That's the only way to watch for me. That's the only way that I will accept a conversation about the show. And you got to give into it, right? Like I said, it's slow moving at first because you want the answers right away, and they're not going to give them to you. You know, they're going to play with it a little bit. You want to hook up on that first date, and all they're going to do is play with it, you know? And you're like, when am I going to get to? You'll get to. Don't worry. Don't worry.
It's coming.
It's coming. But not yet. And you're like, ah, ah. So
making my nice little quarantine stream for the weekend.
That could. It's a great quarantine stream. It's good. It's a real good quarantine stream. So, does that sound like something you'd be into?
You sold me on the two. I like a nice 2-era narrative. And cults. Occults.
It's a 2-era narrative, and then you start going, how are the narratives? How are they gonna cross? How do they cross? And let me tell you something. They cross like a DX crotch chop. Suck it. They cross. They cross.
DX timeline.
Oh yeah. Yeah. So hopefully you enjoy it, Hot Dog. I really hope you do.